Hale, coordinator of the Rockford Tea Party. Please enjoy my project partner Ulysses SR's rendering of the non-binding resolution denouncing confiscatory taxation and spending policies by the federal government, which we will present to the Winnebago County Board and to city councils and county boards across the nation over the course of the next 6 months. Thank you.
Non-binding resolution denouncing confiscatory taxation and redistributive spending priorities by the federal government. We, the people of, are resolved as a council representing the community, do hereby lodge our formal complaint and displeasure with our federal government for taking an inordinate amount of our money via taxes and wasting that money on various federal programs and expenses that have seriously impaired our ability as a county, township, city to pay for local basic services needed to maintain the public safety and promote the common good of our community. As an elected body representing the people of, it is the purpose of this non-binding resolution to register our condemnation of the federal government's unrestrained spending. It is our hope that in passing this resolution, our federal representatives will listen to the American people when we say that we are taxed enough, and the federal government's problem is one of out-of-control spending. Our tax burden as individuals and businesses continually escalates in order to finance programs not appropriate under the Constitution's original intent. While it is certainly a noble venture to give philanthropically, it is not an enumerated power for the federal government to function as a philanthropic organization. The heavy burden of federal taxation has limited our ability to give to the charities of our choice, to invest, to save, or to spend. The enormous federal tax bill imposed on the residents of this community limits the available tax dollars for our local government. The dwindling funds available at our local level has caused us to trim our budgets, putting even the most basic of services in jeopardy. Yet, federal officials continue spending at unprecedented levels. Taxes are increased, new taxes levied, debt continues to accumulate, and deficits climb to record highs. We do recognize the federal government has its appropriate role. It does have its constitutional obligations, but it also has limits. History shows us that the current tax and spend philosophy and accompanying policies are a failure. History also shows that cutting taxes and government spending works towards the goal of stimulating economic growth, which is the only proven means of increasing revenue for the government. We call upon Congress and the President to stop the economically destructive practices that are damaging this community and the futures of generations still to come. It is time for Congress and the President to only do those things obligated to them by the Constitution, which is the surest way to achieve the necessary cuts to bring the federal budget into balance. This non-binding resolution simply states what we feel as an elected body about waste, fraud, and abuse by the federal government in regard to our tax dollars. We do hereby respectfully request, as a body, that the federal government immediately begin downsizing and cutting federal taxes to allow us, as a local government entity, the ability to collect an adequate amount of taxes while we also tighten our budgets in order to pay for basic services and public safety needs without placing undue hardships on our residents. Respectfully and sincerely, your city, county, or township. The following is a guest column written in support of the non-binding resolution denouncing confiscatory taxation and redistributive spending priorities by the federal government. It reads as follows. Apathy towards the political process is no longer an option. The issues and the corresponding facts are too pressing to ignore any longer. The federal budget spends $1.5 trillion more than the government will receive in revenue. Our nation has shed millions of jobs since the torpedo known as subprime loans hit our economy, resulting in a national unemployment rate of nearly 10%. with a Bureau of Labor Statistics U6 unemployment rate of 17%. With fewer people gainfully employed, governments at all levels have seen their tax receipts diminished. Thus, local governments have trimmed their budgets in order to make ends meet. However, our federal representatives have not trimmed the federal budget. Instead, spending continues at a breakneck pace with the implementation of new taxes and the increase of existing ones. To put it simply, this tax and spend philosophy and its accompanying policies coming out of Washington, D.C. has to come to an end, lest our nation goes the way of Greece. To help try and get our elected federal officials to listen to the complaints and concerns of the American people, a non-binding resolution has been crafted for the consideration of local governmental bodies to denounce the confiscatory taxation and redistributive spending that is putting this nation in peril. The text of this resolution can be found at rockfordteaparty.org or usofrn.com. If you are outraged by the goings-on in our nation's capital regarding the waste, fraud, and abuse of our tax dollars, please encourage your township, your county board, your village, or city council to consider this resolution for a vote. If your local governmental body is considering this resolution, please let your appropriate representative know that they should vote in favor of its passage. Written by David Hale, coordinator of the Rockford Tea Party, and Ulysses S. Arnn, author of The Arena of Ideas. My fellow Americans, people often ask the question, what can I do? What you can do, my fellow conservatives and my fellow Tea Party patriots, is help support the non-binding resolution denouncing confiscatory taxation and redistributive spending priorities that myself and David Hale of the Rockford Tea Party came up with. It is our hope to have every city, every village, every township, every county, and if you live in Louisiana, every parish across this country pass this non-binding resolution so that our elected officials in Washington, D.C. can get the message. We are taxed enough already. Government's problem is not one of revenue. It is of out-of-control spending.
We've been thinking about the show.